Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm Murtaza and today I'm going to talk about Autodesk Certified Professional in Revit for Structural Design. If you are an experienced and skilled user of Revit as a structural engineer or civil engineer, I suggest you to get this certificate from Autodesk in order to validate your skills and knowledge of using the software. It helps you to stand from the crowd, increases your reputation as well. To be prepared for the exam, which is about 120 minutes exam and 40 to 60 questions, you need to have some prerequisite skills of using the software, like basic digital literacy and how to create basic 3D elements, annotation and views, and to create and understand the concept of structural and 3D modeling, how to navigate a Revit model, and how to navigate the Revit interface. Once you understand this, you would be able to follow the exam objectives of Revit structure, which is available in the Autodesk website. You can use it as a roadmap or as a guide in order to be prepared for exam. So you need to be familiar with the exam format. So it's mostly multiple choice questions, and also with the exam outline. In the exam outline, there are 5 parts. Each one has a portion of the exam. The first one is modeling and materials, which accounts for 20% of the exam, and it is basically about modeling and materials. And first you need to be able to create and modify structural elements, as you see in the Revit interface. First is work with foundations, and you see here we have isolated foundation, wall foundation, and slab foundations. Foundations transfer loads from the structure to the soil, and they are a very basic and important part of the structure. So you would also be familiar with piles and pile caps. They are used to strengthen the soil beneath the foundations. And the second important component of structure is floors, and you should be able to create structural floors, and there are unique system families of floors and foundations that you can use them to create your own templates or your own floors. You can change the boundaries, the slopes, and the thickness, openings, and the structural floors. And the next one is working with the structural walls and wall types. As you see here, we have structural walls and architectural walls, and the structural walls are load-bearing elements, and we can use them to transfer loads directly from the floors and roofs to the beams and columns. When you create a wall, you can create a straight, curved, and different shapes. You can define the depths and also the material. In the properties palette, you can have basic walls and stacked walls and curving walls. You can use each of these to create different types of walls. So how to join walls is also important, and how we create constraints, how we attach a wall to a floor, and how we create sloping and variable thickness walls. They are also important, how we align in them, and how we can create a wall that the profile can be changed. The next part, or the next important element of structure, is the framing and connections. Basically, framings are combination of columns and beams that can support lateral forces and vertical forces. Lateral forces like winds and seismic loads, and they can be either just simple, or they can be braced for high-rise buildings. And connections are also important for particular structures, like steel structures, where they integrate different elements and components of a structure and make it as a system. Understanding these connections are very important for the exam. The other very important part of the structure component is stairs, and we should be able to create stairs of different types: concrete, laminated, or timber, and also create shafts and shaft openings for the stairs. If we have stairs going for multiple floors, in this part you also be able to understand the functions and limitations of model and detail groups, and also familiar with the reinforcement. As you see here, we have to understand the cover, the area enforcement, the path enforcement, the rebar enforcement, as well as how to use rebar coupler in order to connect different rebars with different shapes and sizes. We can create these rebars and define. Need to understand how to label it later in the other section, which I will talk about it. So this part accounts for 20% of the exam, and you should be able to create a 3D model. Not only you should define the different components, but you also should be able to understand and define the materials. Materials are important. As you see in the manage, we have materials, and once you click in the materials, you might have a library that you need to upload from here, and you can also use the inbuilt, the predefined materials, and then you can change the graphics appearance, physical and thermal properties, the identities of specific materials for yourself. Understanding and defining materials are important, particularly the structural properties like Young modulus, compressive strength or tensile strength of the materials, as well as the thermal properties for energy analysis. That's all for the first part, and the second part of the exam objectives is families. And families are quite building blocks, and the main building blocks of Revit. As you see, all the tools we use, like walls, columns, and even the annotations, they are all families. And in the file we can create new family And once we create a new family, then we would be able to have unique templates for different elements. For example, for column you have metric, and it has extension RFT, and we can click on it, and then you see a quite different interface for the create. For example, you have forms, how you create geometries for extrusion, blending, revolving, sweeping, and you can also create words in similar manner. And then you can use the datum, part reference lines, and reference plans in order to create your own elements. So you can import families and work on these, or you can basically use the family types and then search for specific type if you want to create your own family. And also in the family and category you can create structural columns for a specific discipline. You might have different categories, and you can create those to use those to create your own family. You can also use annotations, views, and manage, same as the main project user interface. And you might have used the property palettes, and the same thing goes to project browser, and you have all the floor plans, 3D views, and elevation views for a specific family. So you need to configure family types, meaning that you're able to create families, rename those, and duplicate family types, and edit the properties. Should well be able to understand family categories and types, and differentiate between various types of families. We have 3 types of families: system families, component or loadable families, and in-place families, where system families are not transferable. They cannot be copied, but cannot be loaded, but they can be transferred to other projects by a function called transfer project standards. And also you should be able to use family parameters. We have instance and type parameters, and also we need to determine appropriate parameter discipline, type, and grouping. And finally, in the family part, you need to be able to create family content from the templates. Export a family to create a type catalog which has a text and Revit file, and you can export that to an Excel, and in the Excel you can create a catalog and then use this catalog to for your project. So creating geometry is important, and also having associated dimensional parameters to connect different constraints, aligns, and labels. This accounts for 18% of the exam, and you have to be familiar with the Revit family in order to pass the exam. The third part is very important, and it's documentation. The documentation is very important, because in the documentations you must be able to create dimensions, edit dimensions. In the annotate tab, you should be able to create align, spot elevation, spot coordination, slopes, and also use the detail component, repeating component, detail group, revision cloud, text, and tags. You should also be familiar with modifying and creating annotation families for documentation. For example, if you want to use one of these, then of course you can edit the type of the dimension here. Should be able to create and use detail components, as I said earlier, and also be able to create faces and design options in order to communicate your design options and different phases of your project with the client and other stakeholders. Understand the primary design option. In the documentation, you should also be able to understand the document revisions, and in the document revisions you use numbering, issuing a revision, tagging a cloud, and settings, either per project or per sheet. And I recommend you to do the revisions per sheet, because each sheet might have different versions and revisions. And lastly, in the documentation, you should be able to configure export and print settings. Which includes how to export to CAD files, to PDF files, and how to, for example, export schedules to Excel files, and also how to customize print setup to create print sets, and save that too in order to use that in the future. So quite a very useful and important part of the Revit. The fourth part of the Revit exam is views, and in the views you apply advanced view techniques such as browser organization, how to set view properties like orientations, view range, and relay, applying section blocks. Also using and applying visibility graphic overrides, apply and edit view templates, how you create view template and how you assign that view template to your views, how to create and manage elevation and callout views, how to set up a sheet, and how to apply work sharing display modes to view, and finally how to create duplicate views. And the duplicate views you can create independent and dependent views. The dependent views are used when there is a need to have multiple sections in a view. For example, if you have a large plan and the plan needs to be viewed with required scale, so you might need to have different views, and each view might be a dependent view of the main view. And finally, in the views you should be able to create, manage and modify schedules, how to customize schedules, and how to manipulate schedule data in order to do estimations as well as quantity takeoff. The views are very useful and important and accounts for 18% of the exam. And finally, the last part, fifth part, is the Revit project management, and the Revit project management is a large portion of the exam, accounts for 22%, and the project management, you should be able to link and import files such as PDFs, images, SCAD files, and should understand how to monitor and copy elements from a link model and how to manage link files. And means that how to load and unload, how to properly position and remove them. You should be able to define work sharing concepts. As you see here, we have worksets, and we can create various work sharing worksets to basically divide the model to various worksets, and each person might be working on one workset, and then we can collaborate either by local area network or wide area network, or we can do collaborate in cloud with our friends, and then we can save it to create a central model, and then we can create local copies from central model in different machines, and so on. Different modelers can use that to work on the same model from simultaneously. So we can also communicate when we want to edit requests. If someone is trying to relinquish or to borrow elements, we can see here. And finally, if we want to synchronize our model, we can just upload the changes we have made by synchronize with central, or reload the lattice if we want to update our model with recent updates. Can use work sharing monitor, and we can use show history in order to see the changes for the project. We can use copy and monitor and do coordination review for the current or link, and we can just define the coordination settings. You can do the interference check, and these are very important in order to develop federated central model from various disciplines, various people working on the same project. The health of the project is also very important. We should be able to maintain our Revit project well, and using purge tools, or using audit and compact tools, assessing review warnings in Revit, and checking model for interference might help us to have a very healthy model, and then remove the corrupted elements. And finally, you should be able to understand a shared project and global parameter and the difference. So these are the main components, the main parts of the exam that I have covered. Once you are prepared, you can do test on the Autodesk website in the learning section, finding the Revit structure part, and if you get a high score and you like more than 95% of the questions are correct, then you register for exam and you would be able to pass the exam. So there is not any unique mark that you should get to pass the exam, but depends on how you do the test, how you basically solve the questions, and how the evaluators evaluate your skills and your results. That's all for today. I hope it's useful for you, and if so, just subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends. Also, please, if you have any questions, you can ask me and I will answer your questions. Meanwhile, I wish you all the best and hope to see you again and again. Thank you.